is Andy White down here at Bobby Ledbetter's Twin City, and I want to invite everybody to come down here and see us. We're located at 1015 Gulf Avenue South here in downtown Fort Payne, and I want everybody to come down and check out our inventory. Bobby always keeps the inventory refreshed. We've got new stuff coming in every single day, a lot of stuff going out every day. Listen, we appreciate everybody in the area coming down here, letting us earn your business. I'm telling you what, this year's been great for us, and every year we get nominated and then we get voted in as the best in DeKalb. So I want to tell everybody we appreciate y'all doing that for us. Let us know we're doing everything right. So y'all come down here and see us, 1015 Gulf Avenue South. You can shop us on the web at Twin City Used Cars, or you can just give us a call at 256-844-2210.
Welcome into the Mountain Valley News North Jackson Press Pigskin Preview. This is the 2020 edition.
It is. It's glad to be back. It's great to be back and cover all the local teams. High school football is getting wound up, and I'm excited we're getting to play this year.
Oh, absolutely. You know, this has been 2020 has been a kind of a crazy year.
Crazy year.
Is it about to end? Maybe.
I hope that it's it's at least it's straightening out and. We can get back to normal a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
We may not ever get back to our old normal, but at least some kind of normal.
Yeah. A lot of things have went on since last football season. A lot of new coaches in the area. Had a couple of people retiring. And, of course, some things don't change. Fife Red Devils, state champions once again for 2019.
And got a good opportunity to repeat.
Oh, absolutely. Moved up in classification.
Yeah, moved up in classification.
And moving to 3A, and I'm sure 2A's happy, and 3A probably not so happy.
Right.
But
several schools was probably not happy that they had to move up with them to 3A.
Oh, absolutely.
They were thinking they might get to avoid them this year.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of things, again, of course, the COVID-19 hit in spring, no spring training for any football teams, of course, no sports at all from March till July.
Yeah, June,
I guess so.
June, July.
Any kind of sports we can get in is going to be fun now.
Yeah, it is. That's right.
So, let's go ahead and we'll start talking about some of the teams, and we'll kind of run down some information we have, some information we're just going to wing it as we go. But, of course, I think we got to start with the Fife Red Devils. Coach Paul Benefiel. 29 years of coaching. I think will be going into his 25th season, I guess, as a head coach at Fife, and has a 297 and 53 record. What can you say about him?
He's had great teams. He's a great coach, and he makes great teams.
Oh, absolutely.
So like everybody, he gets the players come in there. They believe in his system. They believe in him, and he's a good coach. He knows how to get the most out of his players. Does a great job with the physical workouts.
Oh, yeah.
And does a great job with them mentally. These kids he's got, the seniors this year, there's some beasts. There's some big old kids.
He's got 19 returning starters, 9 on offense, 10 on defense, and wow, how would you like to be the opposing teams having to face that, coming off of a 15-0 season last year, winning their 4th state championship. Of course, they won back-to-back 2018 and 19, and actually have a chance to three-peat.
Yes.
And so, he is loaded with talent. I had the chance to talk to him a little bit, and Coach Benefiel, he listed the players that they have to play well this year for a successful season. First one I think is Ike Rao, and seems like the little Rao kid has been playing forever.
It does. I mean, you've heard Ike Rao forever, and he's still no matter who steps up and tries to take the spotlight, there's still an Ike Rao right there running touchdowns. Every
absolutely.
game. You look at somebody trying to get so many yards, and then they hand it to Ike Rao, and he runs a long touchdown.
Yeah.
And he step in and play a little bit of quarterback. And then the next one you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Eli Benefiel.
Eli Benefiel, I guess it was last year when one of the linemen got injured, or year before last, one of the linemen got injured. He's a starting linebacker, and he's a back.
Yeah.
And the starting lineman got injured, and he said, Coach, I'll play that line spot. And he stepped in that line spot and filled in for the guy until he come back.
Absolutely. Of course,
you got players like that. Wow.
Yeah. He's the coach's son, and he probably knows more about that football team, or as much about that football team as his dad does at Coach Benefiel. So,
he's got a
he is a great linebacker, and then you look at Brody Dalton.
Brody Dalton's big, physical, bruiser type. I've seen some film on him from last year that was just pretty brutal.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty brutal for the other players.
Yeah.
Plus, I think he's committed to maybe UAB.
UAB, absolutely. I talked with Coach Benefiel back in the summer and driving down the road, and he was telling me about Brody and how, and UAB had been looking at him, and he has committed, and, he is a big kid, too.
He is a
very big kid. When you start looking at linemen, Caleb Lyles.
Yeah, I'm talking about a big kid.
Yeah,
Ooh.
He is huge, and
he's been recruited by a bunch of people too.
Absolutely, and then just going down the line, Malachi Mize, Chris Chase Wooten, Levi Carroll. Levi Carroll looks like a football player. I saw him when we took pictures, and he is a good-looking kid. Hunter Gillen, Justin Stiefel, Jacob Mitchell, and Bladen Woodall. He said those guys have got to play well for him. Yeah. For them to be able to, repeat as 3A. But he did tell me, he said, he felt good about this season, with all the starters. He didn't feel like missing spring practice hurt them as bad as maybe it could hurt other people, because most of their players are back.
Returners, exactly.
The big loss, of course, we'll talk a little bit about, the quarterback from last year.
Right.
He transferred to...
Zach Pyron transferred to Pinson Valley.
Pinson Valley, yes.
Yeah.
And, big loss for him. He's the MVP from the state championship last year. But Coach Benefiel seems to think that, somebody can step right in and fill those shoes.
That's the way I feel about them. Yeah. They're so good straight across the board. Everybody, that I couldn't, but somebody close to me could step in there and hand the ball off to him.
Oh, absolutely. With the players he's got around him, if he can take the snap from center, he's probably in good shape.
Yes, he'd be good shape. And if you had just a little bit of athletic ability, like Pyron was a good athlete.
Oh, absolutely.
Then it's just even more trouble for defenses.
Yeah, and talking to Coach Benefiel, he felt like they would miss Pyron more on defense really than they did on offense.
That's what I started to say. He's a really good defensive back also. So. They will miss him some on defense.
Yeah. But, he said Brody Dalton had played a little bit of quarterback too, and so.
You got the top three right there we talked about, Ike Corral, Eli Benefiel, Brody Dalton. Any of those guys can play quarterback, and Malachi Mize probably can play quarterback too.
Yeah. So, I look for this team to be
they'll be
just like always, a well-oiled machine. And of course, they open up the season on August the 21st, which is actually this coming Friday night, and we're filming, early in the week, but this week on Friday night, and they open up with Isabella. Don't know a lot about Isabella. I meant to look some of that up, but I know they're always a very good football team.
I think Isabella was the one that had a good season last year. I believe that's the one.
Yeah.
Lost maybe to Lynette, who won the 1A state championship.
I believe that's
in the playoffs.
Right. You look at Region 7 this year, again, some changes. Of course, Fife comes in, but you have Asbury, Brindley Mountain, Collinsville, Fife, Geraldine, Plainview, and Sylvania. Pretty good schedule.
Pretty good region, yeah. It makes for a good schedule, and it makes for a lot of local matchups that are really good.
Collinsville, another team that stepped in from 2A, moving in this time. And, of course, we'll talk about them in a minute, but, they have a new coach coming in. But I would not be surprised if we're not sitting here in December, hopefully, if things go well.
Yes.
and talking about this Fife football team playing for another state championship.
I wouldn't doubt it at all. I know everybody already has been talking all summer about Fife Piedmont. And Piedmont is good, and they were reigning state champs in 3A.
Right.
But I'm telling you, this Fife team is going to be something to watch this year. And Piedmont, I know they've got a lot of talent, but they're still a year or two behind Fife as far as maturity. That quarterback was like an 8th grader last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, don't count them out. They're really good.
No,
but I'm
that could be a great matchup.
If I had to
somewhere down
pick
the
right
line.
now, I don't want to say it too much, but if I had to pick right now, I'd say Fife would probably edge them. But I don't know yet until the season gets started and see how everything goes.
Yeah. Well, again, looking down Fife's schedule, the Isabella on the 21st, August the 28th, they have an opening. They were supposed to travel to Fellowship Christian in Georgia for that game, and that got canceled due to the COVID.
Yeah.
And so they actually will have an open on the 28th. And then they open up, they have Collinsville on September the 4th, which, you look at again back last year, that wound up that was probably the state championship game last year in the semifinals.
Game they had all year.
And then you have Sylvania, then they're at Brindley Mountain. Then they have another opening on the 25th, and then they have Plainview, North Sand Mountain, Geraldine, Asbury, and then they finish off the season with a really good Scottsboro football team.
Yeah, that'll be interesting there, going into the playoffs, playing somebody big like Scottsboro.
So, again, though, I think this Fife team, they're up to the task, and it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah.
Next we'll talk about the Plainview Bears. Again, they're Region 7, Class 3A, and, struggled over the last couple of years, I guess you could say.
I've been seeing the kids around, and they're a lot bigger and a lot stronger. The seniors they really look like football players now. They really look tough. You got Brody McCurdy back. It's one of the best players last year, like all-state type player. Ethan Hope back. He played several positions.
Yeah.
He'd be a lineman probably this year. Marcos Vega is a real thick kid, spark plug type. You got Bryson Ricci, and you also got Hunter Patton back.
Right.
He hasn't been going through workouts with him because he's been doing military workouts.
Right.
So he's unknown, but
he should be in pretty good shape if he's
and
been
then
doing military work.
you got the 11th grader Noah White back as quarterback, who I've seen on several lists that said the best 2022, I guess is what they called it.
Yeah.
Best underclassman not offered.
Yeah.
And he's on that list, so he's a really good player. And also one of the seniors back that, looks like a beast is Jathan Underwood.
He is a beast.
He's
a beast. Talking about Noah White, I thought he did last year, played outstanding,
he did.
Under the circumstances, and, he will have a much better season this year. He's got, he's put some weight on, he's bigger, and like I said, with Brody McCurdy and Hunter Patton and all those guys returning, this could be a much better Plainview football team than what we've had in the last couple of years.
They've been under the Coach Ledbetter for a few years now, and they've been working out a lot harder the last couple of years. They're getting a lot bigger and stronger, and this may be the year that they turn out. I think they could either turn around, they could have a really good year, or they could have a mediocre year.
Yeah.
It's just up to their attitude and what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the schedule, they have a jamboree game, if you want to call it that, a preseason game, I think they call them now, at Cedar Bluff on Thursday night, and so that'll be a good test.
That's going to be a really good test. They play Spring Garden, who was like a win away last year from state champion, and then Cedar Bluff, who is the only team that beat Spring Garden last year.
Right.
Both of those teams have jumped up to 2A now, but that's going to be some really good tests for them. Spring Garden's got everybody back.
Yeah.
From a really good team.
Yeah, and then they open up the season on August the 28th. They'll be taking on Ider. The schedule to me sets up well for them for the first couple of games. They open with Ider. They have Pisgah the following week. Now, of course, Pisgah beat them last year, and that was in the Mud Bowl.
Really good Mud Bowl.
That should be a really good test for them. Then they have Asbury on the 11th, and then they get a really big test in region play. Or of course, at that point would be Geraldine.
That's like a murderer's row right there.
Yeah.
You got Geraldine, Geraldine lost a lot of seniors, but Geraldine is Geraldine. They're in the Brad Waldrop system. He does a great job with them. They'll be there. They'll be big, physical, and play their type of football.
Yeah. If you don't know a lot about Geraldine and you've watched Fife play, then you probably know about what Geraldine leads, because Waldrop does a great job of basically running the Fife offense and the way they do it, and has done a great job there. And year in, year out, they're right there in the playoff system. And, the following week we have Crossville, a 5A team, and Crossville is a much improved
Yes, such an improved team. And like I know I keep talking about these kids being bigger and more physical. They're getting bigger. They're being in these systems. And they've got a great strength coach down there now, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Great coach and the assistant coach. And Coach Edwards went down there.
Yeah.
And then the next one would be 5, so you got Geraldine Crossville 5. And that's really a tough one.
That is a tough one. And then you have Collinsville moving up from 2A, and, lost a lot of players, but they'll still be a good football team.
They did. They lost a lot of seniors, their coach retired. They've got a new coach and a bunch of new players, but they'll still be a good team.
Oh, absolutely. Then you have Sylvania. Sylvania loaded with talent. And I tell you what, just looking at their quarterback, Smith, man, he is a specimen.
He is.
And they got some good-looking kids, and that'll be a tough test for them. And then they finish up the season at Brindley Mountain, and then at Glencoe, or against
Brindley
Mountain.
at home, and then
at Glencoe. So a good schedule, and just looking at that schedule, you don't know. You don't know. I'm interested to see how they do on Thursday night, but this team could very well. They could go 7-3.
Yeah.
On the season,
and they get some confidence up in the early part of the season and do real well. Then they can compete with the Geraldines, Crossvilles, and
absolutely. So it's going to be interesting to see how this Plainview team does. And I think it's time for us to go to a commercial now. So we're going to go to a commercial. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Sylvania Rams. So.
First Southern State Bank in Rainsville, we excel within the walls of our bank and outside these walls too. We're actively working with area schools to improve classrooms and supporting area student athletes on fields and courts. We work and worship at most churches in the Rainsville community. We also work to enhance the lives of area seniors, thanking them for a lifetime of contributions. We're the bankers and corporate citizens at First Southern State Bank. True community banking.
Hi, this is Adam Hill, Operations Manager at Johnson Heating and Cooling. Are you having problems with your current heating and cooling system or just want it serviced? Give us a call today and let one of our NATE certified home comfort specialists come see what we can do for you. We offer 24/7 emergency service to our customers. We service most makes and models and offer a free second opinion on unit replacement.
Call Johnson Heating and Cooling today, Alabama's largest and most awarded TVA dealer.
The City of Stevenson.
Welcome back into the Pigskin preview. Samuel, let's talk about the Sylvania Rams, coming in. 7 returning starters on offense, 7 returning starters on defense, and, talking to Coach Putnam, he feels really good about this season, and, he talked about some of his players. Of course, the first one I think that's probably that's going to make this team go is Brody Smith at quarterback.
Yeah.
And, wow, what a good-looking kid he is.
He is a good-looking athlete.
Garth Anderson at running back.
Yeah, that, and those kids kind of surprised me. I didn't know where they come from until wow, Garth broke out and just started running for 100 yards a game. And then the younger Anderson, that Zach Anderson, which I don't know if there's any relation. They're not brothers or cousins,
right.
But anyway. He come in and helped him too.
Oh, absolutely. So he's got a lot of good players coming back. Clayton Wilkes, Keenan Wilbanks, Logan McCullough, Blake Phillips. And then, of course, he mentioned some of the younger players he needed to contribute with Brent Smith, Sawyer Hughes, and, of course, Zach Anderson. And,
Brett Sims.
Yeah. Just talking to him, he said, if this team continued to prove each week and can stay healthy, he felt like they could have a really, really good season.
I think they do. I don't know who the linemen are. I think Clayton Wilkes might be. I know Keenan Wilbanks. He's been there. It seems like forever.
Yes.
Broke his leg one year and missed out, and then had surgery and come back. And, there's some names on here that I remember from several years ago.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
They should be really, tough this year.
Yeah, I think they got a really good team. They open up on August the 21st with a pretty good test, traveling down to Sacs, and most of the time this Sacs football team is a pretty good football team.
Sacs has been a really good team. I noticed last year they were in the division with Piedmont, Walter Wellborn, Randolph County, and they lost those 3 games.
Right.
So they got in a bad bracket in the playoffs, but you know, year in, year out, they're a title contender. They've been to the, you know, deep in the playoffs several
absolutely.
years.
Yeah,
So,
and a few years ago, you know, they beat Plainview in the playoffs, and so a good test for the Sylvania team. You know, opening up the season. You know, looking down the schedule, August 28th, they'll be playing Sardis. Sardis is always a good football team.
tough 5A school.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And then they open up region play with Brindley Mountain. And then, they step into the fire again right after that Brindley Mountain as they travel down to Fife for a huge football game. And, you know, I think this Sylvania team feels like they can compete with Fife.
I think they do.
And so that's going to be interesting. And then they got Collinsville. Then they have an open. Then they're at they have to go to Asbury, and then they host Geraldine, Plainview, East Limestone, and then they finish up the season with a good North Sun Mountain football team. Again, I think this Sylvania team, you know, of course they made it to the playoffs last year and didn't fare well in the playoffs, but this team is a lot more experienced this year than they have been, and you know, they look like they've been in the weight room and a good-looking football team. So I expect this Sylvania team to be a really good team this year.
Yeah, I do too. I expect them to have a really good record, really good season. I think, you know, in that region, of course, we're still going to talk about a few more. You know, you got Fife right now. Looks like the top team.
Oh yeah.
And then, you know, I think coming in after that will be Geraldine or Sylvania probably.
Yeah.
Or Plainview, those three.
Yeah.
You know.
So, you know, next, let's talk about the Geraldine Bulldogs. We kind of mentioned them, and Coach Brad Waldrop down at Geraldine, and, you know, year in and year out, he is just has done a fantastic job. You know, he's one of those, he don't like to talk a lot, though.
Yeah.
I sent him some information. He didn't send it back to me, which, you know, I know a lot of these coaches are trying to spend their time. And especially with him, I know he said, you know, he lost a lot of players last year.
He lost a lot of seniors.
And so missing spring practice, you know, that's one of the things that could affect, you know, with putting in a new group of kids. And so I know he's trying to spend as much time as he can on the field getting these kids ready to go.
Right. And you know, and you're looking at it like we were talking about earlier, about the reason we're talking about them being so good is because he did lose a lot, but in his system, you know, those kids just kind of plug in and play.
Oh yeah.
No, that's a really good system.
Yeah, he lot like Fife. You know, again, if you mention if you see Fife, you know, Geraldine is one of those teams looks a lot like Fife, and you know, make very few mistakes.
Yeah,
very few mistakes. They're just a good football team. You know, of course they get a great test in the preseason. On Friday night, they're gonna travel over to Piedmont for a preseason game, and again, Piedmont defending 3A state champions. So
we'll know a little bit about
Geraldine will find out where they're at right off the bat. So that's gonna be a great test for Geraldine. You know, then they start the regular season on the 28th, and they got Westminster Christian, who, you know, has talent. They have talent. You know, they're just they're very talented in any sport they play. So, and then they get into a region play at Asbury. Then they go out of region, they play at Sardis, come back, play the Plainview Bears, and that'll be a great matchup, and kind of see where that. And then they actually play Sachs. I mean, they got a brutal schedule.
They do. They have a pretty tough schedule.
Yeah. And then they have Brindley Mountain. Then they're at Sylvania. They're at Fife, and they have Collinsville, and they finish up the season at Crossville. So. And that was a little different. You know, the Crossville-Geraldine game normally is the first game of the year. A lot it had been for the last few years. So, but that's
to the end.
That's a big rivalry game for Geraldine. And so, but this Geraldine team, you know, again, year in, year out, they're a very good football team. You know, they made a good run. Let's see, they won.
They made a good run this year.
Good run this last year. And
you look at them though, it's just like we were saying. It seems like they graduate this really nice, you know, good running back, and then the very next year they got another one that steps in that plays the same way.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like the Sylvania or like the Fife again, like we talked about. You know, they just keep plugging them in, and they've got a good, you know, junior varsity system
program,
and Pee Wee programs going, and so they just, you know, they're building for the future, and you can tell each year they don't lose a step. So another great football team, and you know, all last year we talked about Class 3A Region 7, and it's going to be no different this year, except it's going to be a little tougher probably.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little tougher.
And picking up 5 in Collinsville, and I guess next let's talk about the Collinsville Panthers. Coach Ernie Willingham, longtime coach at Plainview. At Collinsville. And decided to finally retire. He's been talking about it for a few years.
Yeah.
And, so he finally hung it up. But man, what a great season he had to finish out his career. Collinsville makes it to the semifinals, and of course they had to play 5 and actually a pretty good football game.
Yeah, it was. Collinsville had a really good team last year. Had some really good players. Caleb Jones. What can you say? He was probably the best player.
Oh yeah, no
possibly
doubt.
in this area.
Daniel Garrett comes in from Madison Academy as an assistant. He was an assistant coach there. Comes in as the new head coach for the Collinsville Panthers, and he's very excited about being there. And Collinsville has some returning players coming back. They lost a lot, but they do have some returning players coming back. And so. It's going to be interesting to see how these kids adapt to this new coach. Having Coach Willingham there for the last, I don't know how long. Forever. And then, bringing a new coach in with a new system and all kinds of new things going on. We'll see how they step up. But, this Collinsville team, I don't expect them to be.
I don't expect them to be as good as they were last year, possibly. But I know they'll be a decent football team. They'll compete.
Absolutely.
But they're not losing all those seniors. It's just no way that you can be as good this year as you were last year.
Right. But I think they're going to have a good football team. Of course, they lost a good assistant coach, and you mentioned him on ago.
Coach
Edwards. He moved on to Crossville, and so I think that's a pretty tough loss for them and big shoes to fill. So we'll see how that shakes out for them. But this Collinsville team, I know they'll be excited about the new era of the Daniel Garrett, and we'll see how that shakes out.
Going into a 3A and new teams to play, everything means different things, so they'll be excited.
Oh, absolutely. Next, I guess I'm trying to see who we hadn't talked about in that area. Collinsville 5. Geraldine. I think we've covered just about all of those except, of course, we got Brindley Mountain and Asbury in that area. Yeah. And, both of those teams, I'm not sure, they've struggled over the last couple of years, so we'll see how that shakes out. But, I think they've got an opportunity probably to be a little bit better. And, of course, this is one of those years you really don't know with everything that has went on. And,
so much,
a lot of kids may not be playing who have played in the past because they're, it's just.
Scared of, what could happen.
Yeah, so.
You see so many college players and pro players opting out of football this year.
Oh, absolutely.
So I guess there could be high school kids that just says, I'm just not going to play this year.
Yeah. And next we're going to talk about the Ider Hornets. Coach Miles Keith starting his second season at Ider, and he is really, really excited about this football team. Don't have a lot of returning starters, but the players he's got coming back, he feels good about. Got to spend a little time with him, and he's excited about, where they're at. They open up with Woodville this week, actually, regular season game. They'll be traveling over to Woodville. Woodville's another one of those with a new coach, and so probably doesn't know a lot about Woodville because, they got a new system coming in. And then, on the 28th, they got Plainview.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so a good
test.
Glad
it's good to get them back on schedule with each other, and if I'm not mistaken, I looked at Plainview's schedule, and they play nearly every team in DeKalb County other than, like, Valley Head and Fort Payne.
Yeah. I'm proud to see
I like
some
to see
of these
that,
county games coming back, with the regions and the way things had fell over the past few years. Just not a lot of those county rivalry games like we used to have back in the olden days, I guess it would be the way to say it. Yeah. So, but that'll be a great matchup with Ider. Ider and Plainview had some great battles back in their time, and of course Ider then travels to will be hosting North Sand Mountain. And North Sand Mountain, another one of those good football teams. If you talk about Brad Waldrop and Coach Benefiel, Coach Keith Kirby up at North Sand Mountain has done a fantastic job.
He has,
there.
and he just you think just like the others, you think somebody graduates, well, they might be down this year, but no, they get a couple more to fill in. That's they've got a good program going up there.
Yeah, that'll be a September the 4th game, and then on September the 11th, they'll be at Tanner. Tanner. They wasn't that great last year, but
like
historically,
1-9 last year.
Historically, they are a good football team.
They have been, in the state finals a lot of years.
Oh, absolutely.
Competing with like Hazelwood back in the day.
Yeah. Next, they'll be hosting Section. Then they are at Valley Head. They have Victory Christian. Then they play Pisgah, at Faulkville, and then Whitesburg Christian to finish up the season. So. Not a bad schedule. I mean, they got some tough games
good
on there, but some, they got an opportunity to compete in the, anybody in Class 2A now in that region 8, has got an opportunity because Fife, with Fife leaving and Collinsville leaving, and of course, the one thing you look at that, Pisgah steps in there, and Pisgah's got a good football team, so. But this Eider team, I look for them to be a little bit better. They started out really good last year, and then some things some players got hurt and different things happened.
Stumbled a little.
So, but I think they got opportunity to have a pretty decent football team this year. So we'll see how that one shakes out. Next, I guess I'm trying to keep up with all the teams in the county here, and got the Valley Head Tigers. Let's talk about Valley Head and Coach Heath Vincent. Coming in. I don't know. I've had a chance to talk to him. I will say this. They may have the biggest offensive line in Class 1A this year.
Really?
They are monsters.
I've seen a few players that I might know. I know their father's there's actually a Hogan kid there.
Yes.
He was an 8th grader, I think, last year.
Good-looking kid.
Started at linebacker.
Yes.
And I remember his grandfather played against me.
Yeah.
And then his dad was a good linebacker.
Oh, absolutely.
Player, and now he's stepping in. He's really good.
Yeah, they got some good-looking offensive line. Of course, they've got
the running backs too.
Yeah, they've got the Mountain Valley News, DeKalb County Player of the Year in Jordan Burke coming back.
Yeah, he's coming back. So.
He ran for 1,600 yards last year, and he's back, and he's healthy. I had a chance to talk to him, and he said he felt like, he said the last couple of games he was hurt and really couldn't do a whole lot, but he thinks he can get 1,800 yards this year.
Well, that's great.
But I tell you what, let's go to a break, and we come back, and we'll talk a little bit more about this Valley Head team, and then we'll go from there. So we'll be back in just a moment.
They take you where you want to go, where you need to go, and sometimes where you thought you'd never go. If we're lucky, the road of life is smooth, and the curves are just part of the adventure.
All for a better life.
Enjoy your road. Alpha Insurance.
All for a better life.
Pay your bill, file a claim, and more with the Alpha To Go app.
The city of Rainsville, the crossroads of Sand Mountain. Sylvania Pharmacy, your friend, your drugstore.
Welcome back into the Pigskin preview. Sammy, let's go ahead and we'll finish up talking about this Valley Head team. And, I guess, again, Jordan Burt, who was probably the best player, one of the best players in DeKalb County last year, returning, and again, good-looking offensive line. And looking at their schedule this year, they stepped right off the bus into a dadgum hornet's nest as they traveled down to Raglan. Last year Raglan put a pretty good whipping on. Valley Head had a good team and went down to Raglan, and Raglan put a pretty good beating on them. So we'll see how that
has
shakes
a local
out.
boy as their head coach.
Oh yeah.
Sewell boy from Sylvania played at Sylvania and then went to somewhere and played football, Berry or somewhere.
Yeah, looking down their schedule, following week they have Section. They'll travel over to Section, and that should be a good matchup. And then they face Cedar Bluff at home. Always a tough game for Valley Head and then Cedar Bluff. And then they got Woodville for homecoming on the 11th. Play Galesville away. Then they have Ider at home, Appalachian at home, travel to Coosa Christian, have a bye week, and then they get Summit Christian away, which that's a new one on their schedule this year. And then of course they always finish up the season with Collinsville. So pretty good schedule for Valley Head. Coach Vincent, he did think if they can stay healthy, they don't have a lot of numbers.
Right.
That's always, I think there's about
thing.
23 players, but he feels like that what they have is going to be really good. And again, we were up there to take pictures last week, and man, I was impressed.
Kids,
I was impressed with the kids, and and I say the linemen, but you start looking at, of course, Jordan Burke. Man, he looked good, and then the guy you were talking about, the Hogan kid. Man, what a good-looking kid he was. And so this team, if they can stay healthy, I think they can make some noise. I told him, I said, if you could keep this team healthy, I think they can make a deep, deep run in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And, it'll be a good test to see. They'll be healthy when they play Raglan and to see how they can compete. And, again, like I said, talking to Jordan Burt, he said, he felt like he's healthy. He was beat up at the end of the year, and they went into the first round of the playoffs, and he really, I don't know that he even got to play a whole lot. But
he's the type of player though. When he's healthy, any touch and he could carry it all the way.
Absolutely. So look for this Valley Head team. I think if they can stay healthy, they're going to be a really, really good football team. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Next we got the Crossville Lions. Of course, they're a 5A team, and boy, they got a tough region they play in.
Yeah, they do.
And so we'll see what happens there. But they open up looks like on Saturday night, August the 22nd, against New Hope.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that one shakes out. I'm assuming that's a regular season game.
Yeah, I'm assuming it is.
And but that'll be at home on Saturday night. And New Hope was a better football team last year, and we'll see how that shakes out. Of course, then they're at Collinsville on the 28th, and we'll see how that goes. And then they start getting into region play. Have to go. They're at Boaz. They host Gunnersville. Of course, they have an open. Then they get Plainview. Then they host West Point, who is another region game. Fairview, Sardis, Douglas, and then they finish up the season at Geraldine. But Coach Darnell has done a great job at Crossville. Like I said, I think they've got one of the better coaches around this county who moved in, and I think he'll help them tremendously defensively. And so this Crossville team, and we talked about this all last year, a good football team playing in a brutal region.
They've got an opportunity to win a bunch of these
games
this year.
Their region is a little better. You don't. Some of the teams who were in that region have moved up or moved down or moved out. I don't know which one, but this region is a little better for them this year. And if they can build a little momentum out of these first couple of games, they got an opportunity to improve. And I know Coach Darnell. He's a Crossville guy, and he's worked to build this program, and you just hope maybe you see them start turning this thing around.
He's doing a good job building this program. I've seen some of the kids, and they've obviously been working out and getting bigger and stronger. And And like you said, they were a pretty good team last year.
Oh, absolutely.
They just played in a really brutal region.
Yeah, I mean, you start every week we'd look at that, and and the thing was they competed for the first half against some
really
much bigger schools and with a lot more players, to pick from. And the thing with this Crossville team, you look at them, they're probably a 3A school competing in a 5A class.
Yeah.
But a lot of students there, but not a lot of football players playing football there.
Yeah.
So, but I think this team is much better coming into this year.
I think it is too.
So, there you go. I think has that covered all of the county teams? Have we covered all of them? Or are we
Fort
missing
Payne.
any? Fort Payne, yes, yeah. The Fort Payne Wildcats. Man, I tell you, looking at Fort Payne coming in. First of all, you got to Coach Elmore has done a great job at Fort Payne. Last year, I thought they had a tremendous season. Of course, they lost a lot of players, but they've got some good players coming back, and I think the one, if you just start thinking about who is their big man, well, their big man in the backfield, Hunter Love. I mean, man, what a
He's
load
coming back,
he is.
and the ones that some of them that filled in for him last year is back. What's the other running back?
Yes.
The one that got hurt the first of the year, he's back this year.
Yes.
But
of course, the Hunter kid, golly, we took a picture. He is huge.
Yeah.
He is big as any lineman they had, and he can go. Of course, J.D. Blaylock coming back as quarterback. Played quarterback a lot. He didn't. They kind of moved them in and out. Him and the Shattuck. Of course, Shattuck has went on, but they've got a lot of returning starters, and Coach Elmore seems to think this is that they've got a great opportunity this year, a chance to compete, and so we're going to see how that goes. And I'm trying to find their schedule as we're talking here. Again, they open up.
Well,
supposedly they were supposed to open up with Athens on the 21st. Of course, Athens, I think their coach and maybe a few other players had to go in quarantine and maybe even had COVID, and so they had to
forfeit the first game or whatever
how they're handling that, and I'm not positive on that. So, they actually picked up Briarwood Christian.
I'm telling you, Fort Payne's starting out tough, so they better be tough and ready.
You dadgum
right.
With
the big old Hunter Love running the ball, they'll probably be okay, and whatever that other kid's name is, them two kids running the ball, and Blaylock passing it around enough to keep them honest. They should be.
They should be good, but that is a tough test.
Tough.
Briarwood Christian, Coach Yancey, I believe, the coach there. He retired. But this football team, they're loaded with talent. So you talk about a great test, and that one is in Fort Payne. So man, that'd be a great football game to go watch on Friday night. Look at their schedule going on down on August the 28th. They're at Gadsden City.
Yeah.
Gadsden City is always a good football team.
A good 7A school.
Absolutely. Then they're at Arab. Arab has improved over the last couple of years.
That'll probably be a tough region game for them at Arab.
Yeah. And then they have Springville, who is in their region this time. Springville is always a good football team. Of course, they get an open, and then they play Etowah. It's not a region football game, but that's a huge rivalry.
It is.
A big rivalry between those two teams. And then the next week they'll be traveling to Scottsboro, and this Scottsboro team was a very good football team this year, and just talking to Coach Jacobs, they're going to be really good again this year. So that'll be a test, good
Top
test.
Cat trophy.
Yeah, Top Cat trophy.
And that's going to be a good one.
And Southside has been really good. And then at Pale City is always a good football team. And then
the 6A state
6A
champion,
state
Oxford Yellow Jackets. Oh my
Oxford
goodness.
Yellow Jackets.
That is a tough schedule.
Tough schedule, and then they finish up the year against North Jackson, who did not have a great team last year, but they got a ton of players coming back.
They'll be more improved.
They've made some changes, and they'll be an improved football team. So, that may be one of the toughest schedules
it may be,
in North Alabama, and you start talking about it and looking at it, adding, Of course, Athens is a good football team, but you add
Briarwood,
Christian.
Gaston City.
Wow.
The teams that I can think of that I think would be really, really good is Briarwood, Gaston, Springville. Etowah's going to be good. Scottsboro's going to be good. Then you got Pell City. It's always really tough.
Right.
And Oxford.
And then Oxford, what can you say?
Yeah,
state
I mean,
champions.
Wow.
And
wow, that's tough.
So tough schedule for Fort Payne, but if
I
they
think
can,
it'll be good. I think they compete in that schedule. I think they'll be good.
Again, they have to stay healthy. Last couple of years they've lost some key players.
Yeah, that's really
hurt them. And so hopefully this year they stay healthy and can compete in that. And if they can, I tell you what, if they compete with that schedule, they may have a chance of going a long way in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so too.
So that's going to be an interesting season for Fort Payne. And again, they open up on Friday night, so good test right off the bat to see how good this
Fort Payne
Fort
if your
Payne
team's
team
not
is.
playing on Friday, that's a good game to go watch.
Absolutely.
Right there.
I think that covers most of the Cobb County schools. We got one more we'll talk about, kind of the Cornerstone and Christian, who for the last 2 years has played 6-man football. This year they're going to 8-man football.
They're stepping up to 8-man.
Stepping up, and I think just talking to the coach there, he thinks that it's going to be it's a lot more like regular football.
Yeah, they do have linemen in this.
Yes.
They have a couple linemen. So
I think this is going to be a probably if you haven't watched 6A football, it's a little bit different. This will be a little closer to regular football.
Yeah, it'll be a little better.
And Coach Jeff Nelson, I believe, is the head coach for Cornerstone Christian, and he's excited about getting the season started. They have a jamboree Thursday night.
Yeah.
And then they don't open the season until September the 4th, and they'll be hosting Jacksonville, looks like. And then they'll be on the 11th, Tuscaloosa. They have an open. They're at Russell.
Okay, look at this right here. They go to Tuscaloosa, Mississippi. Let's see, that one's a home. That might be Mississippi, home, Mississippi.
Wow.
Home, Tuscaloosa.
And
that is a brutal travel.
Brutal travel schedule. They've got a lot of returning players back though.
Yeah, they do. They got some good athletes up there.
Some good athletes, and so
they're finally getting to get some upperclassmen in there.
Right.
They've been so young for so long.
Oh, absolutely. So it'd be interesting, and if you get a chance to go out and watch some 8-man football, I think it's going to look a lot more like regular
real
football now. And this team, again, if they stay healthy, they may have a chance of doing some things. So we'll see how that goes, but it's going to be exciting for them. I know they're excited to get started, and the coaching staff was excited, and so we'll see how that goes going forward. Now let's talk a little Jackson County football, and I think the first one we need to talk about probably is the Scottsboro Wildcats. Coach Don Jacobs, I think will be his 4th season at Scottsboro, going into his 4th season. Could be his 3rd.
Best I can remember.
I meant to look that up, but he has done a great job. Had a great team last year, and they've got 5 returning starters on offense. They've got 6 on defense, and when you talk about Scottsboro, the first name that comes to my mind is Jacob Manning.
Mm-hmm.
He can do it all.
Yeah.
And just looking at him, he's not a big tall kid, but he plays quarterback most of the time. But they will move him around. He can play wide receiver. He can play running back. He starts on defense.
Yeah, just an athlete.
And he's just an athlete, and how he goes is how this football team goes.
Yeah.
And
having him back this year is big for them. Now.
Oh, absolutely. Coach Jacobs said he was really excited to see how this bunch competes, and man, they open up with a tough team. They're opening up with Madison Academy. Of course, Madison Academy was not as good last year as they had been in the past, but man, that's a great opening game for them on the 28th as they open up with Madison Academy, and we'll see how that shakes out for them, of course. And if that's not tough enough for them, the next week will be.
That's exactly right.
They actually will be at Oxford on the 4th of September, and that should be a great football team, a great football game. Oxford, again, defending state champs, and you know, I don't know a lot about what Oxford lost, but
I don't think Oxford lost that much. I think they had a lot of the big names coming back. They may have lost some, but they had some big names coming back.
of course, then the following week they have Arab, then they have Springville. Of course, then they go out of area or out of region and play North Jackson. Then they've got Fort Payne, and again, we talked a little bit about that. That's going to be a tough game. And then they have Aniana. You know, Coach Jacobs won his state championship down in Aniana, so he's picked them up, and that should be a big rivalry game between those two. And
that'll be like 3 big rivalry games in a row for them.
Oh, absolutely. And then they have Southside, Pell City, and then then they get a pretty good test at the end of the season as they play the Fife Red Devils. So that's going to be that'll be a great game to go watch.
Yeah.
And Coach Jacobs is very excited about this team, and again, that good-looking bunch of kids coming back. And he said there are not a lot of returning starters, but he had a lot of players who played.
Players,
and who played a lot. They might not have been starters, but they played. They got a lot of experience, and he feels good about this football team where they're at. So that'll be interesting to see how this Scottsboro team does. Next we've got we'll talk about North Jackson, and North Jackson coming off of a 2-8 season, I believe.
Something like that.
I believe it was 2-8, and of course we did our media days a few weeks back, and Coach Tygard had come to the media days, and of course I couldn't resist asking the question about what they could do. They were in so many close football games last year. They got beat. I believe we added up. There was 4 or 5 games where they lost by 1 or 2 points at the end of the game.
At the end of the game, thought everybody, all the fans thought they had it won.
Yeah, and so, he really feels good about this year. They've got 9 returning starters on offense. They got 8 returning starters on defense. And he said, but really he has 25 kids that started at some point last season.
Yeah.
And, you start talking about the kids, Johnny Gillum, that was one of the big ones. KJ Huckabee's another one. And then he's picked up a kid who came in this year that looked like a really good athlete. And I can't remember his name now. He had him at the media days, but a really good-looking kid. And I think he feels like this team could be a much improved. Of course, he brought in just about a whole new coaching staff.
Yeah.
And of course, you're gonna know this name when I tell you, Gerald Riggs Jr.
Yeah.
That's his running back, offensive coach and running back coach, and he comes in after playing at the University of Tennessee, and I think he played a little bit of pro football maybe for a while.
Yeah.
But so he talked him into coming down to North Jackson and coaching, and then he's got a couple other coaches who were in college the coaching, and he's got them coming in, and he said that's taken a lot off him because last year he was trying to do offense and defense.
Yeah,
and,
it's hard to do at a bigger school.
And so, but he opens up, and it's a preseason game, but Pleasant Grove, who
I think Pleasant Grove made it to the finals.
They made it to the finals, got beat in the finals
last year. I believe
last
right.
year. So a great test for them.
Opener, wow, yeah, that's
for
tough.
them. And then of course, they open up the season the following week, regular season, at Whitwell, Tennessee.
Always has a good program.
Oh, absolutely. And then they got Westminster Christian, who we've talked about. It's going to be really good. DAR, a much improved football team. Of course, Madison Academy, always good. Scottsboro, we've already talked about them. That's going to be a good matchup. Madison County, who actually last year was a really good football team.
They were, yeah.
And played well. I don't know how many players they've got coming back. Of course, Randolph has been a better football team over the past few years. St. John Paul was a good football team. Of course, New Hope, a better football team.
Better.
And then they finish up at Fort Payne, so a pretty good schedule for this North Jackson
Fort
team.
Payne and North Jackson was a rivalry for a few years.
Yeah.
And they just
kind of.
Well, they got.
I think it got maybe bad enough they
got
needed
a little
to
rough
stop.
and they needed to stop. You're right.
But,
that's what
So, Coach Tygard is excited about this season, and he thinks they'll be a much better football team.
You got 25 kids that coming back that started at some point. That's a lot of starters.
It is. That's a lot of starters.
You got these coaches coming in that's college coaches that the kids are going to really look up to, and that could change your discipline. I mean, you know, discipline is a big thing in football.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're not a disciplined team, then that's a big deal.
And that was one of their problems.
They had a little discipline problems.
They were not very disciplined, and that's one of the things he's worked on. And, you know, I know they didn't get to go through spring training, but he told I got to talk to him a couple of times, and you know, he had them on all kinds of weight programs. He was actually, if he had to, he was delivering weights to their house to keep them where they could work out and do those kind of things. So he said they had a really good off season, even though, you know, they couldn't be together. And so we'll see how that goes. But I think you'll see a better football team up in North Jackson this year.
Yeah,
so.
I believe so.
Next, we got we'll talk about Pisgah. You know, Pisgah steps down from Class 3A, goes into 2A, and I think it's a pretty good move for them, actually.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think that region is going to be a lot weaker because two of the best teams are out of it.
Right.
Of course, North Sand's still in it. North Sand Mountain was like a 3-team in it last year. And so I think they'll have a better opportunity in this to have a better season.
Yeah, you know, Coach Pruitt coming into his third season, I guess, at Pisgah.
I think that's right.
I think it's his third season. So, you know, and of course they open up on the 28th. Looks like they're going to be traveling out to Sand Rock.
Yeah.
You know, Sand Rock, not as good a football team as they've had in the past last year.
No.
But again, you know, they're always a good football team.
They won some games they wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
They did.
And you know, anytime you play at Sand Rock, you better strap your helmet on.
You know, I would say when we get off the bus, you're down 14.
That's exactly right. So that's going to be an interesting game. Of course, then they step up and play Plainview, and that's a big rivalry. You know,
it is.
They had a crazy football game last year in the pouring down rain, and you know, Sylvania hung on and won that football game in a close battle. I mean, very close
game,
and
you know, there was a lot of turnovers, and it was just a real muddy and sloshy. Yeah.
But you know, Plainview's going on
which that's 2 years in a row for Pisgah.
Yeah.
So Plainview's ready to break that.
They're ready to break that. But
to.
You know, Coach Pruitt, you know, he's a Plainview graduate, and then so that's a big rivalry game now, and so we'll see how that goes. But then
I know they don't have but about 5 seniors this year.
Yeah.
So they're a young
They're
team.
a younger football team.
And so he's been working hard with them, I know, and getting them ready to play.
Yeah. You know, then you start looking. They got Falkville. They'll be, I think that's
at Pisgah.
At Pisgah. Then they travel to Whitesburg Christian Academy in Huntsville. Then they travel to DAR. And then they get North Sand Mountain, who again, you know, we'll talk about them in a minute, but they're always a good football team. Of course, you got Otter, who I think will be better this year. Section, we'll talk about them. I think they'll be better this year. Of course, we got Tanner, and they finish up the season at Douglas. So, you know, we'll see how this Pisgah team does. Of course, you know, they were able to slip into the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we'll see if they can make that run again this year.
It'll be interesting.
So we'll see what happens there. You know, next the section lines, and you know, Coach Hammond in his second season coming in, and he's got six returning starters on offense and 7 returners on defense. And of course, he said, you know, for them to be able to compete, you know, those kids are going. Some of the kids that needed to play good for them would be Jace Holcomb, Caleb Bryant, Cade Harper, and then he talked about some of the younger players, the Junior Walker, Cameron Sumford, and Jed Sparks. So he said, you know.
Oh yeah, you just skipped that other name because you don't know how to pronounce it.
Connor, yeah,
Stronvey or
yeah,
I don't know what that is.
But he said we have a great group of young kids, and they've worked very hard since last season, and we have a great senior leadership. And he said, I'm excited to see them play. So
that's great.
You know, looking at their schedule, open up with Collinsville.
Yeah,
that's a big game on the 20th, and that is on the 21st.
That'll be a good test for them.
That'll be a good test for them. You know, Collinsville, again, you know, great football team last year. Probably not as good this year, but there'll be a great test for this section team. Mm-hmm. And then they jump right in and got a good Valley Head team the second week, and I think you know those are 2 really good tests to see.
Test to start off the season.
See where this team's at, and then looks like then they get into region play, and they'll be hosting Tanner. the following week they get North Sand Mountain. Then they have Ider, Faultville, Wattsburg Christian Academy. Of course, then they play a big rivalry game with Pisgah. That's always a big game. Then they have Hanceville, and then they finish up the season at Woodville. So this section team, you know, I think they'll be better. They don't have a lot of numbers. They're kind of like some of the other teams, some of the smaller schools. Numbers are not great, so they got to be healthy. You got to stay healthy to be able to compete. That's the thing.
A lot of the smaller schools.
Yeah. You know, next we got Woodville. You know, Woodville's coach, Coach Tyler Van, his first year coming in. You know, Coach Powell had a great run over at Woodville. Had some really good football teams, but Coach Van comes in. You know, he's a graduate of North Sand Mountain High School, and I don't know if you remember.
I remember the name.
A very good quarterback. Played quarterback at North Sand Mountain, so he knows football, and he's you know, he's coached at. Of course, he was assistant coach at North Sand Mountain, and I think he's coached over in Huntsville at one of those schools, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but this is his first head coaching job, and you know, he's got. I think he didn't say how many returning starters he had, but he listed some names: Jackson Peak, Carlos Torres, Josh Thompson, Easton Parker, Nathan Gardner, and Justin Archer. And you know, he said those kids really need to step it up for them to have a good season. And but he did say he was, if they could stay healthy and they continue to work hard, he felt like they had an opportunity to do something special at Woodville this year. So that was going to be an interesting season for them. You know, they open up with Ider this week at home, so a good opening game test for them right there, and then then they jump in with North Sand Mountain the next week, and so again, we hadn't talked about North Sand Mountain yet, but you know, they're a good football team.
Yeah, they
always
will have a good football team.
Then they have Coosa Christian. Of course, they get Valley Head. You know, Valley Head, I think, is going to be better. Summit Christian, that's one of the new ones coming in this year. And I don't know a lot about them. When I think about them, all I can remember is baseball back when our kids were playing.
We played them in football a few years back. They were 3A school at one time.
That's right. They were. They
private
played
school from like Jasper, Alabama, around Jasper, Summerton. But
I do remember them in football now. I did remember them playing them in baseball.
Yeah.
Decatur Heritage, who is always a good football
always a really
team.
good team.
Cedar Bluff, again, always a good football team. Gainesville, you know, playing better. Appalachian is usually a good football team, and of course they finish up the season at sections. So, you know, I know this new coach is excited, and he's got some good-looking players. Again, number-wise,
that's the thing. They've got to stay healthy.
Got to stay healthy, but you know, I think he's got an opportunity to maybe get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know, next we're going to talk about the North Sand Mountain Bison. Coach Heath Kirby, Coach Keith Kirby. Keith Kirby has done a great job at North Sand Mountain. And again, like you said earlier, he's one of these coaches, you know, where the way his program is built, you know, they'll graduate a lot of seniors, but they don't miss a step.
Yeah, they have somebody step in. You know, the last quarterback that was so good graduated this past year, and you know, he seems like he played for 4 years or more.
Yeah.
You know, that's quarterback.
They're a long
done
time.
Really good.
Yeah, but you know, they open up with Woodville on the 28th, and so that's going to be a you know, that'll be a good test for them. Woodville will have a game behind them, and
they
so
have some little experience.
And so you see how that goes. But then they have Ider the following week. Then they have Section, Tanner, Cedar Bluff, Pisgah, Fife, Wattsburg Christian, Faultville, and then they finish up with Sylvania. But you know, his numbers were up. They had about 40-something players.
Wow. When
we were up there taking pictures, and you know, just talking to Coach Kirby, he felt like, you know, they've got a good nucleus of players coming back. I know the good running back is back. I have a hard time thinking his name, but they've got some really good players coming back, and I think this North Sand Mountain team, you know, they've got to feel better about being 2A with Fife out, you know,
Yeah,
because
when
they
Fife's
were a
out,
good football
Collinsville's out.
team last
Yes.
year, but they had, you know,
They
they were in
just-
a brutal region.
They just lost like 2 games.
Yeah, and that was Collinsville and Fife.
and
So,
and if I'm not mistaken, the Collinsville game was close till the end.
yeah, and you
They
know,
pulled away.
and
right then.
they made it to the playoffs, and I think they won their first round of playoffs, and then they played Collinsville in the second round and got beat.
And didn't they barely get
And
beat
just
by
barely
Collinsville?
got beat.
Something
Yeah,
like that.
so
Yes.
you know, this North Sand Mountain team again, I think
Yeah.
they're a good football team. I think they've got an opportunity to, you know,
Make some noise, in
make
that
some
region.
noise in that region.
I mean, you know,
and
you look
so-
at that region and you think they'll be one of the top teams.
Oh yeah, you know, just
'Cause you
and
got-
of course there's a few teams in there that you don't know. I don't know about.
Right. Well, you know, that Whitesburg Christian, I think, is in their region. I think it might be their first year of football.
Okay. All right.
And then,
You
of
know,
course, Faultville, they were pretty good last
Pretty
year.
good, yeah. Tanner, again, you know,
Tanner
wasn't a good team
1-9
last year,
year.
but usually they're a pretty good football team.
You know, and sections building, and Eider's on the upper edge of building.
Yeah.
They're about there. They're much improved.
Absolutely. So,
And what, Pisgah?
yeah. But if you look at that, I think that, you know, I think you've
They've
got
a
a
really
North
good
End
chance.
Mountains in the picture
They're
in
they're
that
in the
region.
picture and
so.
one of the top teams in the region.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you know, we went a long time today talking about all these teams.
There's a
but
lot
man,
of teams to talk about
It's hard to
nowadays.
believe that football season is back. You know, I'm so excited
Yeah,
about
I'm
it. You know,
glad.
one of the things, and you know, I absolutely, of course, we don't have one on right now, but I hate wearing those masks. But you know,
Yeah.
one of the things I think, if we expect this football season to go all year, you know,
We're gonna have to be
follow the
careful,
rules.
yes.
Be careful, follow the rules. You know, and I know it's not comfortable, but you know, I love football, and I sure would hate to see football season end because we're not following what the
And you know,
CDC
and the
guidelines
rules are
and those kind of things.
the rules are you wear a mask or you separate. So
Right.
like wear your mask when you're walking in by all these people, and then take it off when you get your
Oh,
family
absolutely.
over here
When you're
separate.
sitting with your family, take
Yeah,
your mask
take your
off
mask
and enjoy.
off.
But you know, when you're in a big crowd, put your mask on. Let's follow the rules, and let's have a great football season.
Yeah, let's try to keep everybody
You know,
healthy
I'm
as long as
excited.
possible.
I'm excited to see sports come back, and I sure would hate to see it end.
Yeah.
You know, in a couple of weeks because we're not following the rules that we need to follow. And
I know if any way possible, I know the state people want to play football. Coach Savarese, I know in the AHSAA, you know, they want to play football. All the local people want to play football.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so if any way possible, unless we have people just get crazy and spread this like crazy, you know,
Yeah.
the governor would shut us down.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's the only person I think that will shut us
Yeah.
down in football.
Yeah, but you know, let's follow those rules, and let's hopefully
Try
we
to
have
stay healthy
have
and
a
play.
great football season. And
We did get to, I got a little excitement last weekend. We had our Pee Wee Jamborees and got football kicked off in this area.
oh, okay.
So,
well,
you
good
know, we
deal.
got to watch a little bit of football too. So
Yeah,
we
and,
enjoyed
you
that.
know, hopefully a little later in the season. Right now, SEC, ACC, and Big 12 are still planning on playing
yeah.
football, and so hopefully in a few weeks we can talk a little bit
Yeah,
of college
hopefully.
football too. But you know, we really appreciate you guys tuning in today, and you know, we hope you stay safe, wear your mask, and you know, let's get ready for some good football. And man, it's hard to believe it's here this week. You know,
Yeah.
several games this week, and so. You know, hopefully you get out and enjoy a good high school football game. And we'll be back here next week, and we'll be talking about the winners and talking about the games coming up. And, you know, we'll probably even pick a player of the week and a team of the
Yeah.
week. So hope you guys have a great week, great weekend. God bless each one of you, and we'll see you back here next week.
The City of Bridgeport. W.T. Wilson Funeral Home. Family owned and operated.
Hey folks, this is Andy White down here at Bobby Ledbetter's Twin City, and I want to invite everybody to come down here and see us. We're located at 1015 Gulf Avenue South here in downtown Fort Payne, and I want everybody to come down and check out our inventory. Bobby always keeps the inventory refreshed. We've got new stuff coming in every single day, a lot of stuff going out every day. Listen, we appreciate everybody in the area coming down here, letting us earn your business. I'm telling you what, this year's been great for us, and every year we get nominated and then we get voted in as the best in DeKalb. So I want to tell everybody we appreciate y'all doing that for us. Let us know we're doing everything right. So y'all come down here and see us, 1015 Galt Avenue South. You can shop us on the web at Twin City Used Cars, or you can just give us a call at 256-844-2210.